All right, we are live for another Friday edition of the Mike and Mario Show. And like always, it's good to connect and just go through events from this past week as well as navigate and talk about the days ahead. But before we do that, Mario, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Mike. And you?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. It's Friday as always. Looking forward to connecting with you and combing through the headlines and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. And of course, we got a lot of figures came out today, questionable figures at that. And then also a lot of trending topics worth touching on. And of course, as I mentioned before in live, just how just so much focus on gold, but then again, there's that ceiling that they just will not let it get through for whatever reason. So we're going to get to that, and want to welcome everybody who's tuning in. If you have not as of yet, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channels, and then feel free to have some questions, thoughts, ideas to put out there, and we'll get to them as we move forward. So let's keep it going, man. Let's jump right into the primary subject matter of this evening. We had some figures coming out. Of course, there's always revision downwards. So let's share our 2 cents on that. But Mario, you pay close attention to these figures when they come out. So anything that surprised you out of all these figures and all this red coming out of the U.S. these days?
Not really. I mean, to some it was a surprise because recently a lot of the numbers had always been better than expected, and this one, as you can see, came out at 150,000 on farm. Was expected
Uh-oh. Let me
180,000.
see. Did he freeze? Let me know.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let me see. Mario, you there? Let me see here.
Yeah,
Looks
I
like you
am
might be
here.
frozen.
No, I'm fine.
Let me know if there is. Let me see if we connected. There's some issues here. Looks
I
like I
don't.
may have lost Mario in the short term.
No, I'm
So
here.
let me know if you guys are still plugged in, and
Uh,
we'll see if we can get him back on here.
I'm here.
But as always, there's always unfortunate events that take place, so we'll see how this plays out. And so via chat, let me know if you guys are still
Yeah,
plugged in.
I can see you, Mike.
Mario, are you there? Let
Yeah,
me
I am. I'm
see if I
here.
can get him on here. Okay, so
I,
I see. So Mario, I see
I
you. I
never went
think
away. I never went away.
I see you on my phone, but I don't see you on my screen.
Yeah, no, I can see you. I never went away. But anyway,
So this is something different.
yeah.
Do me a favor, Mario. Exit out and come back in and see if you pop up on my screen.
Exit. How to leave? Okay. Uh, leave broadcast.
um. So Mario, I think you still may be there. Mario's there. It's all good. Okay. Issue I have is that Mario, you're not on my side, so I can't see you. We're gonna iron this out and we'll be good to go. Let me see if I can get him back in here. Looks
I'm
like show on stream.
I'm back. Is it? Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Mario stream was good. There, Tiny Mario gone. So I see him attempting to get back in.
Well, I'm back in.
Oh my goodness, this is unfortunate. So Mario, I see you on the stream,
Yeah.
but then again, on
Yeah.
my screen, I don't see you. Let me leave and come back in, and then if not, we'll have to make some adjustments. But if I can show you, you're not on my screen, so it might, and then come back in. I see you here. I see you here, but you're not on my screen. So
Well, I can see you as well. I can see
it's
you,
unfortunate.
and I can see myself on the screen. So
Well, everybody, I apologize. He says you can hear us both. I can't hear you. goodness gracious.
Do you want me to
Well,
talk about?
Mario, if you can hear me,
Yeah, I can hear you.
I apologize. I apologize for the problems for everybody. It's your connection, Mike. Yeah, and unfortunately, on my side, other than leaving and trying to come back, I might lose the stream. Mm. So, Mario, what we'll have to do? D Crow says, "Best show yet." Well, mm, let me. Okay. So I'm gonna. So Mario, I apologize. Let me try to. I'm gonna try to leave and see if I can come back in
Yeah,
because I
all
don't.
right.
It's like I'm talking
I'll
to
talk.
myself on my
I'll,
screen here. Let me
I'm gonna
leave.
talk to the viewers and.
Remove. Um, Mario.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should be live. Major glitch rather. Um, so what do we? So are you still
I'm here.
okay? So yeah, so on my side, all I saw was myself. I couldn't see anything. So it looks like we are back on. All
Okay.
right, so major glitch there. So we had to go back. On your side, you can edit out. I'll edit out on my side as well. So, um, man, this is unfortunate.
Okay.
So like,
Well,
so literally, like all I could see was myself, and then
yeah.
I'm
Well,
watching the stream. I saw
it's
you.
working. It's working now, is it? So
Yeah, so it looks like
yeah.
it's
Let's.
working
Yeah.
now. We're
Okay.
back live, and on your side with your in your comment section there.
Yeah. Mine is fine.
Okay. So apart from the snafu, I apologize for everybody. Software issues, things happen. You never can control everything, and so I exit out, came back in. Glad I was able to get back in. All right, so man. So now I have to let me go back and I gotta give me 1 second here. Let me try to. I gotta add my screen again. All right, we'll try to pick up where we left off at as best we can. Oh man! All right, so Mario, let's talk about the figures. Last time we left.
Yeah, I mean the number to look at that is important is the one in the middle there. If you move, called the non-farm payrolls,
Yeah.
which was in the last year or so, uh, these numbers have come out higher than expected usually, and that's helped the market. A lot of
Yeah.
people speculate that it's manipulation by the administration, and they're probably right. But this
Hmm.
time, that was surprising because it came lower than expected, and it came out at 150,000.
Yeah.
And also, what catches my attention there is the manufacturing is also very low, minus 35, and even
Hmm.
the U6 unemployment that's gone up to 7.2. So the financial markets, for example, the bond markets, yesterday they rallied already quite a bit.
Hmm.
Bonds yields fell over 10 basis points, and they're dropping again today. And the whole, the new thing in the markets is that the Fed will probably start cutting rates in June next year, So
Hmm.
the 10-year yield has come down from almost 5 recently, is now at 4.55. And if you are a bit of a cynic, you could say that actually the US Treasury and the Fed decided to come out with a weak number because that
Hmm.
would help bonds, right? And so gold, of course, should be rallying because interest rates have dropped, and people have argued that when rates go up, it's bearish for gold. But one
Hmm.
thing I would say, even though there is a lot of manipulation, gold has been holding up really well despite the fact that interest rates and yields have gone up a lot.
Hmm.
So maybe gold was, there's like a chasm there between the two.
Hmm.
So maybe gold was forecasting this already. Gold
Yeah.
doesn't lie generally. So eventually, though, I expect gold to break through 2000. I
Hmm.
mean, the dollar is really weak today versus the major fiat currencies. Like, I think against the pound right now, it's down 1%. 1.3%, and
Hmm.
against the euro is down 1%. Against the yen as well, it's dropped below 150. So yeah, I think things are starting to change. The dollar could weaken, and that should help gold.
Yeah.
And gold is today actually doing well in the other currencies, even though it's still near all-time highs. So that's how I see the data. And
Yeah.
of course, we still have the geopolitical situation in the
Yeah.
Middle East, or
Yeah.
as some people in Asia, they call it West Asia. We call it the Middle East. They call it West Asia.
Yeah, interesting terminology there. And so, like, yeah, my news feeds is just continuously bombarded with all the events, very graphic video footage and photos coming out of that region there. So that's what I'm being fed on my side. But all along, I'm trying to keep my eye on the primary focus, which is the global debt crises the world is experiencing. And I'm really, really concerned that everything, as I mentioned before, will remain the same until gold breaks out in USD. So I know throughout the week, all central banks is accumulating massively. We got Singapore coming out, accumulating. So for all that accumulation in USD term, not breaking out above the 1,000. I think that's something that the world will definitely look back in history and wonder, like, how was all those events unfolding, yet gold was able to always be pressed down after opening here in the
Yeah.
Western Hemisphere.
Well, I
So
think
it's very,
it's called the futures market, and
mhm,
bankers using, they're not really trading real gold. It's
right.
just purely leverage. And yeah, they I mean, in the days of Jesse Livermore, they had something called the bucket shop, which
Mhm,
was these offices. They're like not real brokerages, but they connected to the prices on the New York Stock Exchange, and people just bet on them. They didn't really buy the stock; they just bet on the prices, and that's what the bullion banks do. They're bucket shops, and
mhm,
they basically lure a lot of speculators and investors into playing that game. They're not really buying or selling gold. They're just
mhm.
betting on the price, leveraging it, and they can manipulate it for a short time.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, there's a limited supply of gold, and there's an endless supply of fiat dollar, and that
Mhm.
will be reflected. It is frustrating, but I think people need to realize that the point of holding gold is to not have a debt instrument uh,
Right.
as an asset, which is what the all fiat currencies are.
Right, right. And earlier in the week, I noticed somebody made a comment on one of my videos saying that, with all the stuff happening in the world, do you think people in Gaza and other nations that's ravaged by war, do you think they actually care about, the price of gold and stuff like that? It's more so someone, I guess shooting like, shooting a little market, at me talking about go, get your weight up. And I'm thinking
Well,
like, no doubt, in the middle of a chaos and, and pandemonium, you're not really concerned with, wealth
well,
preservation, but it's usually after the fact, during a rebuilding process, after currencies have their day of reckoning. That's when you're more so very grateful and appreciative if you're able to hold on to something like that. But then again, that's just my 2 cents. But I wanted to comment on that. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I guess, if we were in Gaza, we wouldn't be thinking about gold. It depends where you are. I mean,
Right.
does that mean then you can't follow the World Series or the NBA just because you're not in Gaza? I mean, and what you said there about rebuilding after the war, if you don't have gold, yeah, you'll be in bad shape because, as the title of my live stream for our show says, that wars always result in inflation. And you can go back, I won't go back that far. I'll just go back to the US Revolutionary War. That war led to the saying, it's not worth the continental currency. They use it as shin plaster. That was the nickname for it. It became worthless. And then during the Civil War and the aftermath of that, you had the greenbacks that became worthless as well, and also the Confederate currency, the dollar, that became worthless as well because they lost the war in the South. And you had inflation. Eventually, they were able to go back on the gold standard by, I think, 1879. And then World War One caused inflation not just in Europe but in the US as well, in the aftermath. And then World War Two, the Vietnam War, we had the inflation of the 70s. And now you could argue we might not have a kinetic war, but we seem to have crises every 6 months. And those are the wars that we're fighting now. And the reason why there is inflation always is that governments, they spend and they borrow massively. And we've been doing that even before 2020. So I think it's going to be a gigantic inflation if it doesn't get into hyperinflation. And then you can add as well maybe this prospect that what's happening in the Middle East could develop into World War III. Then I could see hyperinflation. And if you're able to keep some gold and silver through those difficult times, in the others on the other side of the crisis, I think you will be well set up.
Yeah, be better positioned, that's for sure. And so, speaking of which, let's get into. I want to that post from Ronnie Stofferly that you sent me, basically signaling previous hikes, pauses, and gold responded here. And let me move you out the way here. So it says, what happens to gold when the Fed stops hiking rates? And so far, as of this week, we got that second pause. Therefore, I guess these signals here signaling the pause in previous Fed hikes, and then immediately what follow after their recessionary periods, and then they go to the pivoting phase, and gold always responds favorably in this type of environment. So the question is, at what point will they admit defeat and begin pivoting? You mentioned that it's for that as of June next year, but between now and then, something always occurs. Something always thwarts their plans. And so the
Yeah.
question is, will it happen much sooner as than beginning of 2024 or what? What are you thinking?
Well, the Fed always makes forecasts, and they always say things that they change.
Mhm.
They pivot, so to speak. I think Janet Yellen in 2015 or 16, when they announced that they're going to start tapering and then doing QT, she said it was going to be like watching paint dry because it was going to be so boring. And then you had the repo crisis in 2019. And by March 2020, they had to reverse everything. Back in 2021, everyone was saying that they didn't expect rates to. I think Powell said something. We're not even thinking about
Thinking
raising
about it.
rates. So now they're saying, "Oh, we're going to leave rates this high for longer." That longer could be 2 months, or the markets usually lead the way, and the markets are saying now that they expect the Fed to start cutting by June next year. The markets could be wrong as well. It could be even earlier, or it could be later. So no one knows. But what that chart there by Incrementum tells us is that every time the Fed, I mean, they've paused now for the last few months. So it looks like there is a pause now. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of how long it will take. back in like 2006, 7. It was fairly long pause. I guess they could keep, but I'd I think the markets might be right, and they could be wrong in that it could be even before June. So yeah, it looks like gold reacts really well once they cut, as you can see there.
Yeah.
I mean, back in 07, 08. And this time they've raised from almost zero to like above 5, and
Mhm.
gold has gone really sideways in dollars, so it hasn't even hurt gold. So you can
Yeah.
imagine when they start cutting, how bullish that should be. And I say should because you never know
Good.
with gold. You never know.
Right.
Um,
Right. And that's another thing I was talking about earlier about just that ceiling of 2000. Like clearly, 2000 could be a breaking point. We were talking about weeks ago about what would a collapse look like. It's breaking that 2000 point and then really be testing new numbers that we haven't seen before. And my thought, not being a technical analyst type of guy, or whatever, but I'm thinking 2100. It's like something that would definitely surpass that all time high figure, and it would really be an attention getter. Like there's no way to avoid that outside of all the other all-time highs and other currencies that would really get people's attention. And of course, silver clearly would be 25, 20, be closer to $30 an ounce. And then, hey, the world would definitely recognize that something is taking place, because U.S. debt at that point would not be too pretty, as if it's already, not looking pretty right now.
yeah,
So,
and that in the last 3 years, that 2050, 70 level, it's like a
mhm,
dam. It's like they've built a dam, and the we who know about gold and what it means and all the debt they've created, we know that
mhm,
once that dam breaks, it's going to be, 2100 will be like peanuts. It
right.
could go to 3, 4, 5,000 in my opinion. That's why this 22,000 and then 2070 is so important, and
Mhm,
a lot of sentiment and attention on markets are based on numbers.
yeah.
Years ago, back in the early 2000s, the key level for gold was $400. A lot of people were saying that gold would never break 400 again.
Mhm,
And even the FT did this piece in April 2004. And I wrote that gold was at 400 at the time. And they're
mhm,
trying to say that gold was worthless and it was going nowhere. You see? So
mhm.
you're probably going to see a lot of people like the FT and mainstream media saying, "Oh, that gold is never going to break 2000 again," because they don't want it to break. And we recently saw as well the front page of Barron's
Mhm.
telling people that they should buy bonds. And I think that's a huge reverse indicator. I know bonds have rallied in the last week, but I think that's just a counter trend rally.
Mhm.
Longer term, we're in the bear market for gold, for bonds.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. Speaking of which, while you're talking, I pulled up so here's 5 years. Here's the last 5 years here, and clearly that is, we got 2035. This was back in August 2nd of 2020, and then here we got 2000, almost 2000. So clearly, the
Yeah,
last 5 years
yeah.
has been that continuous trend you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's a closing, that's a line chart, but if you do the bar chart, the highs in gold have been around 2073, two or three of them. And yeah, you can see that they don't want gold to break through that level, but they can only manipulate things for so long. We're seeing that
Right.
a lot of the central banks, non-Western central banks, they're buying record amounts again in 2023, and
Mhm.
they did it in 2022. The Chinese are leading it,
Right.
Singapore is leading it, Poland. So it's only a matter of time. If anything, uh, it gives us more time to protect our savings,
Right.
especially with silver as well.
Right, 100%. And then speaking of which, as you were speaking, I was looking in the chat, and I mentioned before we went live about just the potential breaking news. Not sure how breaking it is, but the banking issues, and so underpinning the monetary structure is the banking sector, and there's a lot of concerns about what's happening due to the high interest rate environment we're in now. But this is from about an hour or two ago about banks having issues. So I'm not sure it's been resolved since then, but just something worth paying attention to because, as I mentioned, they're painting the narrative of an Iran cyber event. So I'm sure they'll find some way to link this all in at some point in the future. So if anybody's in the community been affected, let us know and see if they're back up and running yet. So we will see. But let's keep going. We got some more charts here, man. I was trying to apologize for the hiccup earlier, but just some graphs that came out in reference to those figures that were given to us earlier. And it just shows that you can't really trust the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So here's just a graph here. It says Biden's Department of Fake Data doing this thing. August job revised down by 62,000 from plus 227 to plus 165,000. September was revised down by 39,000 from 336 to 297. So 8 of the past 9 months have been revised lower. And so at what point, as I mentioned before, they give us these hopium figures, but then again, they always revise them down. So who can you trust at this point? What part of governments can you trust when it comes to the data they're giving us?
No, it's not just the statistics departments or Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's the whole
System?
the whole system. The banking system included. They manipulate everything. They manipulate not just the gold price. They manipulate the bond markets. They manipulate currencies. The U.S. Treasury has the biggest hedge fund in the world called the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which was created in 1934 with the profits of all the gold they confiscated from Americans in 33, and then revalued it from $20.67 to $35. So they took that profit and they've been using it ever since to manipulate the value of the dollar. And gold is the ultimate measure of value for the dollar. So you can bet that the ESF is probably one of those funds that is involved in the futures market. And every time we get to that 2000, they bash it. But they can't do it forever because then they could run out of gold. If they could do it forever, we'd still be at $35 an ounce. Eventually, they'll have to let it go. And even the bond markets, they're talking about now not issuing as many long-term bonds, so they have to issue more short-term bonds. But the amount of debt and deficit spending being created is still going to be the same. It's all smokes and mirrors. And that's why I think having gold and silver and anything else that's outside the system is sanity. It's real. It might not be valued properly right now, the prices, but actually the intrinsic value will always be there of those real things.
Yeah, good point there. And here's another graph here, and I see some questions out there. We're going to eventually get to those.
Yeah.
So here's just another graph here. Showing more of the numbers here, but it's from Zero Hedge. It says the much more accurate and less manipulated household survey shows employment collapsed by 348,000, the biggest drop since the health situation to shut down the economy. And so just more of a downward trajectory of figures here. So numbers don't lie, as well as the graphs that show these numbers. So something worthwhile there.
Yeah, in
what else we got here?
The UK as well, our labor market statistics. I even saw someone in the FT write something a week or so ago about it, saying it's a complete joke. It doesn't mean anything. So for the FT to say that is, is quite interesting.
Yeah. What else we got here? And here's something that we're going to be hearing more about as well. The government shutdown risk looms again this November. So we have about 2 weeks before there's another DC conundrum. And so let me see. There's some details here I want to talk about here. It says the chance of a November government shutdown is about 30% currently, according to event trading site Kalshi. So
What's
once
this one
again,
about?
more debt.
Mean,
Say that again.
what's this shutdown about? I mean,
So
the last one was about the debt ceiling, and I thought that been solved.
no, it was some whatever the measurements that was passed literally last time was just it was a 45-day. They pacified things for 45 days, literally to get through whatever that the major issues was at that point there. So this one here
Oh,
is
it's a deadline for that 45 days.
right. So it says another government shutdown approach is likely that not a certain continuing resolutions. However, a broader budget debate may drag on over the coming weeks and possibly into the 2024 with automatic budget cuts could take effect. Regardless of the continuing resolution to fund the government is if a set of complete spending bills aren't passed by the end of 2023, then across the board, 1% of government funding will begin in April 2024.
I'm sure they'll find the funds to fight the wars, though.
Oh yeah, no doubt. They're going to continue to send some funds to Ukraine and Israel because Janet Yellen said that they can do both at the same time. But what does that do? Like when you see the world's literally recognizing right now that our debt is not as good as it used to be. Therefore, the only thing we can do is issue more of it. Then what will you do? Continue
Yeah,
to run the gold more than likely. So
yeah.
more chaos, more pandemonium.
I saw. I don't know if I sent to you. I think is like a guy from BlackRock. He used to be in the Canadian Central Bank, and
Mhm.
despite the fact that yields have dropped in the last couple of days, he still sees the 10-year yield actually going towards 5.5. So there you go.
Okay, that's this one here.
This is the BlackRock. They've got the most funds under management in the world, like 10 trillion plus, and
Yeah.
they don't buy this rally in the bond market. So, like you said, um, people don't, and they talk in this article that foreigners are not buying as many treasuries, and they're trying to diversify and trade in their own currency. So, yeah.
Yeah. What else we got? A couple more headlines, then we'll jump into some questions. I'm curious to hear what people are keeping their eyes on these days. What else we got? We got a lot of things that we gotta get to. Just not. I mean, just the true indicators, man, as to how bad things really are, continues to come out. 10,000 jobs, the shipping man drops. Like these figures here really show that things are slowing down drastically, man. And
Yeah,
we're a
that's the biggest
70% consumption economy. Say that again.
excuse me, yeah, that's the biggest shipping company in the world, I think, a Danish company, Maersk.
Hmm. So yeah, just more uneventful news, man. So never ending, man, never ending. But then again, what do you expect at this current moment? Let's get to some questions, man. Let's open up and get some thoughts, ideas, suggestions. What you guys are keeping an eye on. And for those who coming in late, we had some technical issues which kind of threw me for a loop. So I apologize for that. But then again, and so feel free to throw some thoughts, ideas, suggestions. What are you guys keeping an eye on? What are some subjects worth bringing to the table that we didn't touch on? I'd be curious to hear what other subjects out there that we're going to be talking about sooner or later. Um, Let me see here. So highlight at Manico64 or at RTD so they'll stand out and we'll jump on. Let's see something earlier. Where'd it go? Awful hybrid engine. Nope. Let me see here. I feel another pain. See LBP telling people to max out credit cards for silver again.
LPP, yeah. Unsecured is 3 months.
Here's one for Sean here. It says, Mike and Mario, at what level of U.S. government debt do you think the markets will react adversely with debt? I would say we're at that point now where the markets are literally every day is something different. Like the volatility is pretty extreme to me. So how much worse can it get is a question. So I don't know. But what are your thoughts,
Yeah,
Mario?
well, the Bank of Japan, for example, the Japanese government has 300% debt to GDP, but their rates are below 1% because the BOJ is printing loads of money to buy that debt and keep the rates low. But now the JGB owns half of all the debt. The US, it's 125% debt to GDP. But the
Mhm.
trick here is whether if interest rates rise as quickly as they have from
Mhm.
0 to 5, like in a matter of 18 months. That's the problem, because and that's why it's a bit of a relief for them that rates have come off. So I would say it's more the speed of the hike in yields that is a problem. But I think eventually the Fed, like the BOJ, will come to the rescue and basically conjure up trillions out of thin air to buy that government debt to keep rates low. But
Mhm.
the flip side of that is that gold will probably blow through that 2070 level. I mean, in Japanese yen, gold has gone from 60,000 yen per ounce to over 300,000 since the '08 crisis. So it's gone up 5 times. If you do
Mhm.
that for the price in dollars, let's say it was 1,000 in 2008, you multiply that by 5, we could be, the Japanese yen has gone to the equivalent of $5,000 per ounce. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of which, here's the Japanese yen over the last 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I was going through a variety of countries here, man, and every country
Yeah,
except the USD.
it looks like their 2000 was 250,000, as you can see there. There's a
Yeah.
major tops there, and then
Yeah.
eventually blew through it. So there you go. And they've had all these triple, quadruple tops, and every time it eventually goes through it. And that, the dollar is really important though, because it's the reserve currency, and it's so
Mhm.
important for the deep state to keep the dollar seeming to be worth something, because they
Mhm.
have a lot of killing and stealing to do around the world.
Yeah.
As
And yeah.
and I'm
And
sorry to say it like that, but that's what
no,
it
but that's
is.
just what it is. I mean, it's been the backbone of our
And
world.
I'm
So here's another
I'm not saying Americans do that, but the government.
right, just the establishment, the government can include cahoots with the banking sector. So here's something that says inflation in states is horrible. However, petrol has dropped in price. So here, our gas prices at the pump is close to $3 a gallon, which is abnormal given the fact that McDonald's combo meal, certain parts of the country was like $20. So
Well, actually,
it's
that's
like,
probably a good thing, no?
I mean, it is, yeah,
For
but
people who needs fast
I believe that
food.
the cheapness at the pump is a result of our strategic petroleum reserves being drained. They haven't replenished it enough for the upcoming winter for the most part. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time before the prices reflect what we actually
Yeah.
have in reserves, which is dwindling. So
Someone
yeah,
I'm in contact with noted today that natural gas prices, the US nat gas price, is starting to move up. I mean, the European one is still flatlining, but that could be the next thing as well. Natural gas.
yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. So here's another one says, thanks for answering my question. Is if the U.S. government does what Bank of Japan does on such a scale, the U.S. value could quickly devalue, implode.
Um, Yeah, maybe not. It will just be a steady decline.
Yeah.
For people, the average person out there, they won't notice it, but you and I and the rest of all our viewers, we will know, and
Mhm.
that's why you know it's good to know these things when you start seeing the dollar drop against gold, 2100, and things
Mhm.
will still be relatively normal, but you can bet that in 6-12 months after that, you will see the effects of that, which will be everything more expensive.
Mhm. LBP says, Mario, do you know any coin shops in Turkey?
Actually, in the hotel that I stayed, they had this shop where they sell all the fake goods, like
Mm.
Rolexes and Louis Vuitton handbags and all that. But they also had like some Turkish coins for sale, which I bought. But they're not like silver. They're Turkish coins from like the '70s and '80s, and I
Mhm.
bought. It was like a little set. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. See if I can find it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I got it actually. Turk. There you go. I got it. Turk coins.
Mhm.
They're just
Turk coins.
just normal fiat coins,
Yeah, a
but
little memorabilia.
they're quite interesting. I don't know. I think I paid 10 euros for it. It's funny because in
Mhm,
Turkey, they deal in euros. They don't
mhm.
deal in the lira because it's such a horrible currency that
Oh, was there any transactions? Any transactions in the
you,
lira? Did you
you
bother to
know.
convert to the Turkish lira or no?
Well, the thing is, when before I went, I never been to Turkey. I changed a few £100 to lira, so I did have some
Mhm,
Turkish lira, but I found that they all want euros over there. So,
mhm,
and the thing is, what will happen in the UK or in the US when our currencies become like the Turkish lira? Well,
mhm,
I have a feeling people are going to start resorting to silver and gold
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
because
the rescue currency.
The Turks can resort to euros, but euro is not a really good alternative because it's a fiat as well,
Right.
fiat
And
currency.
then here's a something a remarks here about Sunshine. It says ACH clearinghouse is down. Check direct deposits. So I'm not sure if that banking situation is continuing to spread, if or if not. But yeah, interesting stuff, man. What else we got? Any thoughts? Any other questions out there? Not fake. Even locked up in Turkish prison. Canadian Constitution means that government. Oh, let me
I
see.
thought about buying a fake Rolex, but that's not the right thing to do. I have a real one. I mean,
Yeah.
and they they s- I saw one that was nice, and the guy said, "Oh, 300 euros." I got it down to 160, but I still thought, "Oh, let me think about it."
Oh man, you got a real souvenir, a fake Rolex from Turkey. That'd be funny. Big Dangerous Justice Wars. I don't see any more questions. What else we got here? Anything else out there? What do we got coming up? What's coming up? Anything worth paying attention to? Heading into the winter months.
Um, not yeah. I mean, just keep an eye on what's going on in Israel and Gaza. Apart
Yeah.
from that, I don't know when the next Fed meeting is. I mean, keep an eye on the bond market as usual. Keep an eye on Japan. Um, yeah, and keep stacking, I guess.
Yeah, that indeed. That indeed. It's going to be interesting, man. I anticipate more of a ramp up in the Middle East before I see some type of ceasefire slash resolution, just because the West needs as much confrontation as possible and allows them to further their agenda. And I'm
Oh
assuming
yeah, that's the
during it.
thing. Sorry, go
What?
ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
One
No, go
thing
ahead.
I wanted to say is that the system we have, you always need more and more debt to keep the
Mhm,
system going. And what better excuse than wars and making people patriotic, and we have to go help these people over there,
mhm,
fight, and that's an excuse to keep the debt going, and that's why unfortunately I think that's the only thing they've got up their sleeves right now is another war. Like Gerald
mhm.
Celente says, when everything else fails, we will take you to war. And the reason they do that is because it keeps the debt system going.
Yeah.
If we had peace and everything was well with the world, all the world governments would collapse because you know uh, they're full of debt.
Right. And then very great says, have you got China banks dropping out of the LBMA?
Oh
They were
yeah,
touching that last week.
I mean, I have an opinion on that. You there, Mike?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm here.
Well, I just think maybe it's because they don't need to be in the in the LBMA anymore,
Mhm,
and maybe because the LBMA is going to blow up, the whole, and maybe because they'd much rather deal in Shanghai, and that's where all the physical gold market is moving to. That's the only thing
mhm,
I can say. There, someone said that they've asked Chat GPT about
mhm.
this, and Chat GPT said it's unusual, and they can't really say why. So I don't know.
Sal says, with the CBDC incoming, how do you think they'll regulate use of gold and silver? Will underworld users of fiat look to use gold, etc.? Of fiat look to use. Um, yeah, apart from trying to cut off the bullion dealers, like online retailers, whatever, they might have issues transacting or interacting with payment structure, payment system. Probably end up coming type of black market type of environment where people actually use gold and silver, more likely silver for bartering sake, gold for wealth preservation. So they'll definitely choke off all the bullion dealers one by one. But as always, mankind will find a way to keep moving. So,
Yeah,
but that's just my 2 cents there.
I actually think with CBDCs, and if there's eventually no cash, gold and silver are going to become even more important. So I'm not sure if they will stop bullion dealers because even politicians and people high up, they want to do things and they get paid on the side. So I think it will become actually even more important to have gold and silver. Whether they'll limit like us plebs from dealing with it, they could, but I think there's so few people proportionate wise that
Yeah.
have any gold and silver that it won't matter to them.
Right. I agree as well. I agree. And that goes into the whole idea of confiscation. Like nobody really has other than people who tune into the alternative media, just channels like this. Most people don't want no gold or silver. And the average Joe right now is more concerned with just, maintaining what they have than trying to go out and preserve and protect themselves for their future. So bartering happens sometimes, yeah, 100%. All right. Well, we're about that 46-minute mark. And as always, overall good live stream apart from the issues earlier, but we'll deal with that. So I apologize for those issues. But anyway, people, have a great weekend. Mario, you as well. It's going to be more than enough stuff to talk about next week as well. Never a dull moment in a monetary transition period, but we'll make the most of it, enjoy life as best we can, and really try to, just, hey, man, keep our heads above water and try to thrive in these interesting times. But all right, my good people, be blessed, be safe. Any last words, Mario?
No, I don't have much to add. I think you said everything needed there.
Phil, appreciate you, man. Says Mike and Mario, you're a really interesting team together. Do more shows together. Appreciate you, people. Well, all right. Be blessed, be safe, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.